Welcome to Seeking History. Okay, here's a fun fact to get us started. Did you know that way back in 1915, there was this place in Las Cruces, Mexico, called Tierra de Guadalupe?
1915. Wow, what about it?
Well, they actually advertised automobile entrances in places for 40 or more cars for people to watch performances.
No kidding. 40 cars in 1915. That's more than a decade before the drive-in we usually think of as the first one.
Exactly. Shows people were already thinking about cars and entertainment pretty early on.
That's fascinating. And it really sets the stage perfectly for our deep dive today, doesn't it? We're looking into the whole story of the American drive-in theater.
Right, from where it started, how it got so incredibly popular.
It became this huge cultural thing.
Yeah, and then, the decline, but also this kind of surprising comeback it's been having.
So, just to be clear for everyone listening, what is a drive-in? We probably picture it, but...
Sure. It's basically your outdoor movie setup. You've got that giant screen, right? A projection booth, usually a concession stand for popcorn and stuff.
Can't forget the concession.
Definitely not. And then this big parking area where you just drive in, park your car, and watch the movie from inside.
And some early ones even had extras, like playgrounds for kids, picnic tables. They were really trying to make it an event.
Totally. It was about the whole experience.
It's such a unique mix, isn't it? You get the movie, but also the privacy, the comfort of your own car. It created this really different kind of social outing.
It clearly hit on something people wanted. So let's rewind a bit. Where did the patented idea really come from? We're talking the 1930s now.
Right. The name usually credited is Richard M. Hollingshead, Jr. He got the patent in 1933.
And his motivation was kind of interesting, wasn't it? Something about his mother?
Yeah, apparently. The story goes he noticed his mother wasn't comfortable in the seats in regular indoor movie theaters, so he started thinking about alternatives.
Necessity, or at least observed discomfort, is the mother of invention.
Something like that. And he didn't just have the idea, he really worked on it. Did a lot of experiments.
In his own backyard or driveway.
That's right. In Riverton, New Jersey, around 1932, he literally nailed a screen to some trees.
Seriously?
Yep. Put a 1928 Kodak projector on the hood of his car. And for sound, he tried placing a radio just behind the screen.
Wow. Talk about DIY.
He was testing everything's sound levels with the car windows up, down, really trying to figure out the practicalities.
He was really thinking it through, wasn't he? Like how everyone would actually see the screen.
Exactly. He put cars up on blocks to figure out the spacing, the best way to create ramps, so cars further back still had a clear view.
Smart. Thinking about sight lines from the start.
He even used a lawn sprinkler to simulate rain, just to see how the whole setup would handle bad weather.
That's dedication, going the extra mile.
It really was. And all that led to the first official patented drive-in, the Camden Drive-In. It opened June 6, 1933, in Pennsauken, New Jersey.
Okay, so that's one people usually point to. How big was it?
It had space for 400 cars, which was pretty substantial then, and the screen was about 40 by 50 feet.
And the first movie, I feel like I should know this.
It was called Wives Beware.
Wives Beware. Okay, maybe a little tongue-in-cheek title for the occasion.
Perhaps. And their marketing was clever, too. They had this slogan, "The whole family is welcome, regardless of how noisy the children are."
See, that's tapping right into a pain point for parents. Genius. A place you could take kids without stressing.
Absolutely. That family-friendly angle was key right from the beginning. It really helped shape its image.
But it wasn't all smooth sailing, technically speaking, especially with sound.
No, that was a big early hurdle. Initially, they just had speakers up on the tower by the screen.
Right, and sound travels slower than light, so...
Exactly. If you were parked way in the back, you'd get this annoying delay. The sound wouldn't match the picture. It must have been pretty distracting.
Yeah, that would drive me nuts. So how did they fix it?
Well, there were attempts. One place in 1935, the Pico Drive-In, tried putting speakers just in front of the cars. But the real breakthrough, the one most people remember, came in 1941.
Okay, what was that?
RCA developed individual speakers you could hang right on your car window.
The classic drive-in speaker.
That's the one. Each had its own volume control, too. It solved the delay problem, and it meant less noise bothering the neighbors. A win-win.
A simple but brilliant solution. It really made the experience work properly.
Totally. And the business model early on, they charged per car and per person sometimes.
Interesting. So how fast did it catch on before, say, World War II?
It was growing steadily. By the time the U.S. entered the war, there were about 15 drive-ins. One guy, Philip Smith, actually ran 9 of them.
Wow, he was cornering the market early.
Seems like it, and he really pushed that family angle, letting kids in free, putting in playgrounds.
Playgrounds, that's smart. Keeps the kids busy before the movie. It really made it more than just watching a film, didn't it? It was a whole family outing.
It really was. And like you mentioned at the start, those earlier experiments, like the Theater de Guadalupe in 1915, or Claude Caver's outdoor movies in Texas in 1921.
Right, they show the idea was percolating for a while.
Exactly. Even if the tech wasn't quite there yet, people were thinking about cars and movies together.
So after these early days, the trial and error, the innovations, it sounds like the drive-in was really set up for its big moment.
Oh, absolutely. Post-World War II is when things just exploded. The golden age, as they call it.
The 1950s and 60s, what fueled that massive growth?
It was kind of a perfect storm. You had way more people owning cars than ever before.
Right, the rise of car culture.
Yep. Plus, people were moving out to the suburbs.
The suburbanization, yeah.
And the baby boom meant lots of families looking for things to do. Drive-ins fit right into that lifestyle.
Made sense. Cheaper land out in the suburbs, too, I guess.
That helped. By 1958, get this, there were over 4,000 drive-ins across the U.S., especially big in rural areas.
4,000, that's incredible growth. And they were cheaper to go to, generally.
Yeah, usually lower ticket prices than indoor theaters because the overhead was less. That made them really accessible during that post-war boom time.
So it wasn't just a place to see a movie, it became something more.
Definitely. A real social hub. For families, it was super relaxed. Kids could be in their pajamas, run around beforehand.
The playgrounds, the bottle warmers you mentioned.
Diaper vending machines, even. They really leaned into catering to families.
Such a contrast to the sit still and be quiet vibe of indoor theaters.
Totally different atmosphere. But at the same time, it was also huge for teenagers.
Ah, yes, the infamous passion pits.
Exactly. It offered privacy, a place to hang out, go on dates. It had this dual appeal. Great for families, great for teens.
It really captured the spirit of the times, didn't it? Family life, teen culture, cars, all wrapped up in one.
It did. And from a business standpoint, they had advantages too. Cheaper to build, cheaper to run than indoor places.
And concessions must have been huge.
Oh, yeah. The snack bar was critical. Long intermissions gave people plenty of time to buy food and drinks. Some even had car hops bringing food right to your car. That snack bar experience is almost inseparable from the drive-in memory for a lot of people.
Absolutely. The smell of popcorn. So with so many openings, did they try gimmicks to stand out?
Oh, all sorts of things. Prize drawings, free nights. Buck-a-car nights.
Buck nights, classic.
Some got really elaborate. Petting zoos, helicopter rides.
Helicopter ride.
Yep. Even small airplane runways at a couple of them. Actor appearances. Live bands sometimes. A few even held Sunday church services there.
Wow. They really tried everything to pull people in. Yeah, an airplane runway, that's commitment.
It shows how competitive it got and how much they wanted to be seen as more than just movies.
Did they ever crack the daylight problem? Watching movies during the day?
They tried. Some experimented with these enormous tents to block the sun.
Huh. How'd that work out?
Not great. Just too expensive and impractical, really. Drive-ins remained mostly a nighttime thing.
Makes sense. Weather and daylight were always the big variable. So how big did these places get?
Some were absolutely massive. There was one in New York, the Johnny All-Weather Drive-In, that could hold 2,500 cars.
2,500.
Yeah. And it had a restaurant with rooftop seating, even a trolley to take you to the playground, or an indoor theater they also had on site.
That's practically a theme park.
Pretty much. And the biggest ever, apparently, was Lowe's Open Air in Massachusetts. Supposedly room for 5,000 cars.
5,000? That's just staggering. Hard to even picture.
It really shows the scale of their popularity. These were major entertainment destinations, reflecting that whole post-war affluence and car-centric lifestyle.
But like a lot of things from that era, the golden age couldn't last forever.
Yeah.
Things started to change.
Yeah, the decline started becoming noticeable in the 70s and really picked up speed through the 80s and 90s. Several factors were at play.
Home entertainment has to be a big one.
Huge. First, color TV became widespread, then cable offered more channels.
And then VCRs. That must have been a killer.
Absolutely. By the early 80s, being able to rent movies and watch them whenever you wanted at home, that convenience was tough to beat.
Yeah, staying home in your PJs, pausing the movie, I get the appeal.
Exactly. And at the same time, you had the rise of the indoor multiplex.
Right. Climate control, multiple screens, more movie choices, comfy seats.
They offered consistency. No worries about rain or cold or heat. That was a big advantage over drive-ins, which were always weather dependent.
Then there was the energy crisis in the 70s. How did that fit in?
Well, things like daylight saving time meant movies started later in the summer, and there was just generally more awareness about saving gas, maybe using the car a bit less, which could impact a business totally reliant on cars.
Huh. That's a subtle effect, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
And the land itself became an issue too, right?
Definitely. Drive-ins needed huge plots of land, often on the edges of towns. As suburbs grew and land values shot up.
That land became worth a lot more for other things.
Exactly. Selling the land for a shopping center, housing developments, storage units, even a church often became way more profitable than running a drive-in.
The economics just shifted against them.
Plus, the costs of running them went up. Film rental fees increased. Distributors wanted movies to play for longer runs.
And a lot of these places were getting old, probably needed repairs.
Yeah, many faced expensive upkeep or needed major upgrades, and owners just weren't willing or able to sink that kind of money into them. It was a tough business.
So some tried to adapt by changing what they showed.
Some did. To try and boost attendance, they started showing more R-rated, sometimes even X-rated exploitation films.
Ah, the grindhouse era for some drive-ins.
Right. It might have brought in some money short-term, but it definitely damaged that family-friendly image they'd built up for decades.
A risky move.
Yeah.
Did big blockbuster movies have an impact too?
Yeah, that's another angle. Think about something like Star Wars in the late 70s with its amazing special effects.
People wanted the best possible picture and sound.
And an outdoor screen, maybe dealing with ambient light or less than perfect sound. It often just couldn't compete with the experience inside a modern, well-equipped indoor theater for those kinds of movies.
So sadly, lots of closures. Any famous examples?
Well, the South City Drive-In in Philly eventually became the site of the Spectrum Arena. Lots of places just vanished.
It is sad when those landmarks go. A piece of local history disappears.
There were some kind of darkly funny stories, too. One drive-in, Spotlight 88, got hit by a tornado. The owners put up a sign saying, "Gone with the wind."
Oh, wow. Gotta appreciate the humor, I guess.
Another place, the E-Course Drive-In, did the same thing after a storm. It eventually became a Kroger supermarket.
Gone with the Wind seems like a fitting, if bittersweet, epitaph for a lot of them.
It really does. But, the story doesn't quite end there. There's been a revival.
Yes.
Yeah.
The comeback. How did that start?
Well, even as they were declining, the ones that survived started to gain this nostalgic appeal, starting maybe late 70s, but really picking up through the 90s. That whole retro vibe became cool.
People started appreciating the uniqueness again.
Exactly. And by the end of the 90s, that nostalgia was actually fueling a bit of a resurgence.
And technology played a role in new ways too, right? Not just as a competitor.
Yeah, interestingly, around 2001, you started seeing do-it-yourself or guerrilla drive-ins pop up.
What did that involve?
People using relatively cheap LCD projectors, small FM transmitters for the sound.
You could broadcast the audio to car radios.
Right. And they'd set up in empty lots, under bridges, projecting onto walls, often organized online, kind of reclaiming urban spaces for movies.
That's pretty cool. A very grassroots take on the concept.
Very much so. And then you also have the rise of boutique drive-ins.
Smaller scale, more curated.
Yeah, maybe only 30 to 50 cars, often a real focus on the vintage vibe, maybe food trucks instead of a traditional snack bar, showing classic films alongside new ones, more of an event feel.
Catering to a niche audience looking for that specific experience.
Mm-hmm. And there are even nonprofit models now. Hall's Drive-In in Virginia is one run by the community to keep it alive.
That shows real dedication, doesn't it? People valuing it enough to run it as a nonprofit.
It really does. So by the mid-2000s, around 2006, the number of drive-ins in the U.S. had actually climbed back up to around 500.
So a definite turnaround from the lowest point.
Yeah, and you saw revivals happening in Canada and Australia too around that time. But it wasn't all easy. New challenges kept coming.
Like what? More economic pressure?
Yeah, the oil price spikes and recession in the late 2000s hurt again. Less driving, less disposable income. And then the really big one hit the whole industry. The shift to digital projection.
Ah, right. That forced all cinemas to upgrade indoor and outdoor.
And for drive-ins, it was particularly tough. The cost was huge, upwards of $70,000 per screen.
Wow. That's a massive investment for a small, often seasonal business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You needed the projector, brighter bulbs for the outdoor throw, internet hookups, maybe modifying the whole projection booth. It was make or break for many. Some looked at giant LED screens like jumbotrons as an alternative, but that's expensive too.
A huge technological hurdle to overcome just to stay in business.
Definitely. But then something completely unexpected happened.
COVID-19.
The pandemic. Suddenly, indoor theaters were closed, people were desperate for safe ways to get out of the house.
And the drive-in was perfectly suited for social distancing.
Exactly. Attendance just soared.
Yeah.
For a while there, drive-ins were making up a huge percentage, like 85–95% of the North American box office revenue.
Incredible. Talk about a lifeline from an unexpected source. It gave them a whole new relevance overnight.
It really did. A nostalgic escape that was also uniquely safe for the moment.
Did we see any other modern twists during this recent period?
Yeah, a few things. Back in 2010, one drive-in in Texas started showing 3D movies.
3D at a drive-in, huh?
Yep. There were talks, though they didn't really happen, about partnering with retro burger chains like Johnny Rockets. Honda tried to help with digital conversion costs through a project, but it was limited.
So people were still trying to innovate within the format.
For sure. And that diversification continues now. Drive-ins aren't just for movies anymore.
Right. You see concerts there now, comedy nights.
Community events, too. Graduations were huge during the pandemic. Weddings, church services, even things like yoga classes. They're becoming more like multi-use community venues.
Adapting to survive and thrive. And exploring new tech, like maybe electronic screens for daytime use.
Some are looking into that, yeah. Trying to expand the hours they can operate.
And this isn't just a U.S. thing, right? You mentioned Australia, Canada.
Right. Australia had a lot, now only about 15. There's a famous remote one in Coober Pedy that's faced weather challenges. But you find them, or saw revivals during COVID, in places like Germany, Italy, Spain. Even Iran had its first post-revolution drive-in during the pandemic.
Wow, it really is spread globally. What's the biggest one now?
Currently, it's the Fort Lauderdale Swap Shop in Florida, which is also apparently the world's largest daily flea market.
A drive-in and a massive flea market combined. That's quite a combo.
It definitely is. Shows how adaptable the model can be.
So looking back over this whole journey, it's pretty amazing. From Hollingshead trying to make his mom more comfortable,
Through that incredible golden age boom fueled by cars and suburbs.
the tough times facing TV, VCRs, and rising land values.
And now this revival, driven by nostalgia, technology, and even a global pandemic, it's been quite the roller coaster.
It really stands as this potent symbol of 20th century America, doesn't it? Reflecting changes in how we live, how we socialize our technology.
Absolutely. And pop culture has cemented its place, too. You think of Grease or American Graffiti. The drive-in is instantly recognizable.
It makes you wonder then, considering how the drive-in adapted, how that nostalgia keeps pulling people back, what other older forms of entertainment might see a comeback in our super digital age?
That's a great question. What is it about these experiences, the drive-in, maybe vinyl records, board games, what fundamental need do they tap into that keeps them relevant, even now?
Something to think about as you drive away, perhaps. It's been fascinating tracing this history.
It really has. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Seeking History. We'll catch you next time for another look into the past.